we will explore the different types of storage mode in today's session. So what are the different types of storage modes are available? So in the case of Power BI, it supports different methods for connecting data, which we have discussed already at an high level. We import connectivity mode and direct query connectivity mode. And also we have something else called composite connectivity mode. And then we have something else called live mode. So now let us take a look at each and every connectivity mode in detail. Okay, to start with, let's take a look at the import connectivity mode or import storage mode. Okay, the import storage mode is the most widely used. As we have seen in the past session also, when you connect to the SQL server, the default connectivity mode was import mode. Okay. And even in the case of database, we have noticed. So when I have given the URL or the server name, right, database cloud server name, and then when we connect it there, and when I selected the table, account table, when I selected the account table, it was so it was asking whether import or direct connectivity mode to be used. So the import connectivity mode was the one selected by default. Okay. So import connectivity mode is the most widely used one. It's the default one when we connect to database or SQL server. But in the case of flat files, Excel, so these are not servers. Okay, the Excel and JSON file, this is just a files. To connect to the files, it uses only the import mode. And if you connect to anything like any engine, like the SQL server database, it is the engine is running in the SQL server itself, right? And the Oracle server, these kind of sources, if you connect it, and the default connectivity mode is import. Okay. So in that case, what happens is it will ingest or pull the data from the data source and become part of our Power BI desktop file in the case of import. Okay. And okay, so in the import mode, what happens is when the data gets loaded into our Power BI desktop or in your local server, it is not only loading into your local server, it is getting loaded into your local server or your laptop's memory, in memory. Okay, the data get cached in memory. Okay, so in the case of import mode, Power BI pull the data from your data source and load the data inside of Power BI itself, be it an Excel file or CSV file, or even in the case of SQL Server table, when you use the import mode, the data it's kind of a, ingesting the data or pulling the data and loading it into a Power BI itself, which means the data sits inside of the Power BI desktop file itself. In the intro, they'll ask you, once you load the data into Power BI desktop using import connectivity mode, so where the data will get, loaded. So where the data will be available. So the data will become part and parcel of your Power BI desktop itself. It will become part of your Power BI desktop itself. Okay. Since the data is available as part of the Power BI itself, it is super fast because because of the in-memory querying, and being columnar database, the report performance will be faster. So what happens is in the case of import mode, behind the scene, there is something called X-Velocity engine. X-Velocity engine is also one of the, it's a piece of software. When you install the Power BI desktop, even this one will also get installed, okay, as part of that one, okay. So when you use the import connectivity mode, the X-Velocity engine will get kicked in. So what it does is it take your data. For example, you are loading the customer table. Okay, I'll just write it. Customer table from your SQL server. Using import mode, you are loading it into your Power BI desktop. So behind the scene, there is something like X-Velocity engine. So since you are using import connect mode, this one will get started behind the scene, and then what it will start work on this one, the imported file. So the customer file, our table, right? It will convert this tabular data into columnar data. Columnar database. How many of you are aware of the columnar database? Apache Cassandra and Xbase. These are the examples for the columnar database. So you might have heard about the typical the RDBMS table. So table will have the rows and columns in it, right? Rows and columns. Each table, a single table can have multiple columns also in it. Usually we create a table with more than one column. Okay, the combination of columns, you will be having it in a single table. In the case of columnar database, it stores each column separately. Each column separately. This I will discuss it in detail when I cover the DAX topic. Okay. So for column 1, column 2, column 3, each column it stores the data separately instead of storing all the columns into a single table. Each column. So what XML does is it when you import the customer table into your Power BI desktop, it converts your tabular data into columnar database. The columnar database, this is your columnar database. You just think that way, columnar database. In the case of columnar database, it stores each and every column separately. Now the question is, why it has to store the columns separately instead of storing all the columns into a single table? The reason is the columnar database are quite popular because what happens is the difference here is this is row based. Okay, in this case, what happens? You have multiple columns. If supposing you want to you want to select only the C1 and C3 column to create your report, you need only C1 and C3 column from this table. What happens is, let's assume that okay, I will take this way, listen, this is C11 and C13, C14, okay, C14, column 11, column 14. Each and every column will go stored separately. Let's assume that in this case, the 13th column is this one, 14th column got stored separately. In the case of row-based store, the typical RDBMS table, what happens is, even though you want only 13th column and 14th column, for your query or for your report, what happens is it goes and checks each and every column. In the case of row-based store, row store, okay, it first goes and checks the C1 column. No, this is not C13. All I need is C13 and C14. But here, first column is C1. It is not C13. Until it finds the C13, it has to keep scanning. It has to keep skip. Oh, this is not C13. Skip it. C2. No, this is not C13. It has to keep skip it. If the volume of the data are very huge, especially in that kind of situation, if the row store database skips the columns and to find out until the desired columns, it takes a lot of time. In this case, columnar database, what they do, they store the columns separately, and they use something, behind the scene, it uses some kind of linked list, something like that, okay? So whenever you want C13 and C14, it directly goes to this column. It is not going to scan sequentially each and every column like how it does in the case of row store databases, okay? Like SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, in all these kind of RDBMS, each and every column, it has to go and check. The first column is not the C13, skip it. But in the case of columnar database, it goes the columns directly. Okay, in that case, the performance will be pretty faster. So the XVelocity engine, what it does is in the case of import, it convert, first step is it convert your or in tabular data into columnar database. And second step, what it does is it compresses the data, and then it finally load the data in memory, load the compressed data in memory. Okay. These are these three tasks performed by XVelocity engine behind the scene. Okay. So what is why it has to compress the data? If you compresses the data and if you load it in memory, it doesn't require too much of memory to hold the compressed data, isn't it? And also querying the compressed data will not take much time, it will be pretty faster. Okay, that is also the reason why even Microsoft recommends wherever required, wherever it is possible, you can use import connectivity mode. But there is an exception. If the volume of the data is too high, better you can go for direct query mode. But believe me or not, in the real-time scenario, most of the cases we are using direct query mode only, because the data are the source system data are available in SQL Server database or Oracle. In that case, we have to use the direct query mode because the volume of the data are very high. But when you use the direct query mode, you cannot use all the DAX functions. Okay, and if we need to create some stored procedure, we need to create views in the source system SQL Server database only. Okay, though Microsoft says a lot of DAX functions, built-in functions, everything is available. With that, you don't have to do heavy lifting. You can perform advanced analytics. Still, there are limitations. Okay, you cannot use all the DAX functions with direct query. You need to still rely on the traditional way of writing the stored procedures, stored functions to perform the complex data transformation. Okay. Let's say you have a table with or Excel file with 1 GB file. Okay, let's say you have an Excel file. The data is available in Excel file. That Excel file has the Excel files is 1 GB. But when you load it into your Power BI desktop, it gets compressed, and then the file size will become 10 MB. Okay, 1 GB file will get compressed and the size will get reduced to a very small size. Okay, Pooja asked a question, what are DAX functions? So DAX functions is one of the important topics as part of the Power BI desktop, Power BI, okay? And using DAX functions or built-in functions, it is available as part of the Power BI desktop or Power BI software. And they're using DAX functions, you can perform advanced analytics. Okay, you have something called calculate function using which you can modify the filter context. Okay, again, I don't want to get, diverted. So DAX functions are built-in functions using which you can perform advanced analytics. Okay, that is one of the important topics in Power BI. At this moment, you just remember this. Okay, and so the 1 GB file will get reduced to 10 MB. And if you load the 10 MB into memory, it will not take much time. And also querying the 10 MB file will not take much time. And also the memory will not, it doesn't require too much of memory, isn't it? That is also one of the reasons why Microsoft recommends us to use the import mode. But in the case of huge volume of the data, you have to use direct query mode. Okay. And because of this, right, the data get cached in memory, the report performance is faster. Okay, the other advantage with import mode is you can use all DAX function, data analytics expression. The DAX stands for data analytics expression. Here, but they already given a lot of DAX function, built-in functions. Since they've given the built-in functions, already, you don't have to write lines and lines of code. That's the reason why we call Power BI as a low code, no code. It is not that zero coding is required. Okay, you need to do coding, but low coding. But there are cases you don't have to do coding. For example, simple data transformation, just point and click in the Power Query, you can do the data transformation, isn't it? You don't have to write M script and all explicitly for every type of transformation, data transformation. This is one of the advantages in the case of import mode. You can use all DAX related functions. For example, sum function, sumx function, count function, countx function, countf function. Likewise, they've given a lot of functions. Okay, built-in functions. Hence, you don't have to write lines and lines of code. You can leverage all these DAX functions when you load the data using import mode. Okay. But in the real world, we cannot use all the DAX functions. We have to use the direct query mode because the volume of data is very high and it is available in SQL Server or some other RDBMS database. Okay. And in the case of import mode, the limitation is you can schedule up to 8 refreshes per day only. Okay. In the case of premium SKU, you have something called premium SKU license, and it allows you to perform data refresh more time. The frequency of the data refresh can be more. But in the case of free license and pro license, the pro license, you can use only 8 refreshes per day. And other limitation with this one is in the case of imported data, it needs frequent refresh. or it requires the data refresh periodically. The simple example is, for example, I just see the refresh, right? So why do we need to refresh the data? Let's say you have published a report on cloud. This is your report file. What is the extension of the report file? All of you, please type it in the chat window, PBAX file. Okay, you developed a report and then you publish it on cloud. Once you publish it on cloud, people across the globe within your org or even your end customer can also access the report. Okay, and you published reports. It's all daily summary report. You publish the report on 1st May. Okay, and the daily reports, monthly reports, it is fine if you publish it on 1st May. The 1st June, only the reporting users will check the monthly reports. But the daily summary reports, they want to see it on a daily basis. You publish the report on 1st May. And today is 22nd May. Today, when somebody opens the daily summary report, it should show today's data. But unfortunately, you publish on 1st May only. And this report, daily report summary will show only the 1st May, that specific day's sales summary here. If you wanted to see the day-to-day summary, you need to refresh this report with the fresh data. Okay. The simple example is, every day new customers, let's say whenever a new customer comes in, only the new customer data will get refreshed here. It's something like that. New customer and their associated transactions or any new transaction comes on this specific day, only that thing needs to be refreshed. Instead of loading 1st May to till date, whatever the data is there, right? We are not going to load it. Since we are interested only in today's data, the today data, whatever the orders raised in the source system, and whatever the new customers got loaded into the customer table in the source system, only that information will get reflected, that needs to be reflected in this one. Okay. Okay, then only that one should get refreshed. Okay. So that is what your incremental refresh. Okay, incremental refresh. You need to periodically refresh your report. Will you please go through a subscription like Pro mode and premium, etc., as you have been repeating again and again? Did I repeat this one or see? I have explained to at a high level what is import mode. I did not cover in detail. Okay, did I cover this one? I did not cover this one, right? The refresh needs to be covered, right? It needs to get refreshed on a daily basis. The import model needs to be refreshed. Okay. And please bear with me. Okay, I need to go in detail, only then you will be able to understand. Okay, licensing part, yeah, you can. I will share the linking. Oh, you mean the licenses? Licenses, I will share the link. You can take a look at it, because again they keep changing the licensing also every new version. Okay, I will share the link. You can take a look at it. Probably I will repeat it in the tomorrow's session. Don't worry. Okay, without fail, I'll repeat it tomorrow. Okay, don't worry. Yeah, next one is the size limitations. I already discussed it. The maximum report file size of a Power BI desktop is 2 GB and maximum file size for the PB8. We have something called template, Power BI template file. I'll explain this later point in time. When I cover Power Query, I'll explain what is PB80 file, Power BI template file. The maximum size for this is 1 GB and premium. Because if I cover everything, you will not be able to understand the core topic which I'm going to cover it. Today, the whole objective is try to understand all the type of the storage mode in detail. Okay. Okay. And this is the idea. And P1 capacity can, the Power BI premium capacity will support up to 1 GB per data set. Okay. And these are the things, if you remember, when it comes to import mode, that is sufficient. And the next one is the direct query mode. So what is direct storage mode? Direct storage mode is other type of the connection to the source system. This is an alternate to the import mode. As I said, direct query, you have to use this connection mode or storage mode if the volume of the data is very high. Okay. In this case, the data will not get stored in your Power BI desktop. Okay, and every time the Power BI will query the data from the data source, and Power BI will only store the metadata of the tables like table name, column name, and relationships. Okay, and the advantage is it doesn't require any storages because you are directly querying the source system, SQL Server data base. And also models doesn't require scheduled data refresh. This I did not discuss, isn't it? Models don't require scheduled data refresh. Unlike import mode, in the case of direct query, what happens is Power Query, the visuals, for example, in the case of visuals, it will query the data from your data source every time. Since it queries the source system data directly, it doesn't require any data refresh. In the case of import, you are loading the data locally. The Power BI desktop loading the data locally into a report file. But you have loaded the data, or you have used the import connected on 1st May. Okay. And today data, it will not be there because 1st May only use the import connectivity mode. The data got loaded into your model. See, model is nothing but this is the one. Did you forget this? In Power BI desktop, I have shown you the model view, right? That is what I'm talking. Okay, so the data will get, in this case, it will query the data at your source system directly, and it doesn't require data refresh. Direct query, that is what is happening, isn't it? We discussed in detail as per the query folding and all. And the next one is the disadvantage, limitation to DAX queries. You cannot use all the DAX queries when you use the direct query connectivity mode or direct connectivity mode. That is one limitation, and also you cannot perform exhaustive data transformations. Okay, and data direct query is possible for few data sets only. That is another limitations. These are the source system. You can use the direct query mode. If you have MySQL Server, you cannot use this one. Okay. And if you want to take a deep dive, so look here, this is the one link. You can go and take a look at this link. Okay. And the next one is the live mode, live connection mode.